Hello and welcome to What's Brewing, the local entertainment show for young people of Sheffield. We're your hosts, Ness and Liam.
Got loads of great stuff for you today, such as challenges that women still face in football, to the hustle and bustle of tramlines and how it affects our public parks. We even talk to the public to see who they think will win the Oscars.
So without further ado, let's get brewing. Our team has been asking the questions about whether women's football in Sheffield and the rest of the UK gets the respect it deserves.
We interviewed Tilly Ironside, a midfielder for Dronfield Town FC, to get her opinions on women's football in today's society. Here's what she had to say.
I think men's are obviously more physical, but I think with women, the technicality of it came along a really long way over the past 10, 15 years. And I just think we've improved to a similar standard to the men's. It's grown so much over the last 15 years from when I was playing as a youngster.
We have done some research to put what we're aiming to get across into something easier to grasp. The highest attendance for the women's football game was over 91,000 people. Sounds impressive, no? The highest men's attended game was just shy over 200,000 people. Now let's look at that on a local level. Sheffield United women's highest ever attended game is just over 11,000, while the men's 32,000.
Covered 2 women's football World Cups, 2 women's European Championships and 2 editions of the She Believes Cup in the United States. I think the differences are changing, but there has been a significant difference over the last 50 years, where women's sport was very much seen as this lesser product. So the people who are covering it, you look now on the BBC and you're starting to see far more female voices, female pundits, female commentators, and that addition makes a big difference there.
Liam, you're a big football fan, aren't you? What are you thinking on the future of women's football?
I think it's come a long way in the past 10 years. I think it's still not as it should be. I think a lot of big clubs need to do a bit more. There's clubs like Sheffield Wednesday where they have a ladies team but are not associated, so the only thing the ladies actually have is the licensing to the badge and the name, which is just sort of the standard that is set at the moment, but more could be done in my opinion, yeah.
Now, we've been lucky enough to be joined in the What's Brewing studio by the Birdhouse Tea Company owner, Rebecca English. Hi, Rebecca.
Hello, thanks for having me.
The show is called What's Brewing. What is the secret to a perfect cuppa?
Good tea, essentially. You can't make a good cuppa with bad tea, basically. But I think the thing with tea is how you like it is the right way. There is no right and wrong way, but the number one rule is to use good tea.
What inspired you to make teas based off of Sheffield, essentially?
So when we first started out, because obviously I was the tea nerd that wanted to try and get people in Yorkshire to think differently about tea. So I started creating some blends, but actually infusing them in baked goods. So we'd have like carrot cake muffins infused with chai, lemon shortbreads with Earl Grey, like pairing different flavours, and what better way to get people interested in tea than shove it in a cake, essentially, first. But then we booked a stall at Kelham Island Christmas Market, so I decided to create a blend to try and reflect the industrial heritage of Sheffield. So we launched that there, along with the 70s of Sheffield, all different ones, and then from then on we've gone on to do collections inspired by Peak District, Sweet Shop, favourite biscuits, all sorts. Basically, whatever I like in life, if I can make it into tea, I will.
And finally, is there anything you'd want to say to start-up businesses?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel like don't be scared. Like, how wrong can it really go if you're passionate about something? And also, I would say to reach out to other small businesses. Like, a lot of small businesses helped me, and I'm always, like, my inbox is open all the time for anybody who's starting out, because you never know, like, the right conversation. Like, I mentioned to somebody very early on that I was kind of looking for a shop, and within a month I had the keys to one because somebody told me about it. So I feel like you've just got to network, make the connections, don't be afraid to ask daft questions.
Next up, we find out whether Sheffield's Staple Music Festival is still loved or whether the mess it leaves behind is pushing it further and further away from the public's hearts.
Tramlines Festival began in 2009 in the city centre. It has featured an incredible range of artists, from Kate Nash to Kaiser Chiefs, Rag and Bone Man to Reverend and the Makers, Nile Rodgers to Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds. When Tramlines first began in 2009, it was primarily held in the city centre. Its move in 2015 saw festival goers gathering in Ponderosa Park. In 2018, the festival finally moved here in Hillsborough Park. How did the move here affect Hillsborough communities?
We don't really have a great relationship with them because their main relationship is with the council. So they'll consult us a little bit about residents' meetings and that sort of thing.
I have no problem with Tramlines as a festival, but I don't think a public park is the right place for it to be. I know we're on the tram line as a park, but I think that needs to be looked at more closely about the loss of this for children and families over the summer. Well, they couldn't have done much. I mean, grass takes time to grow, doesn't it, you know? And they needed to fence off the areas so it did have time to grow. I mean, I think the ducks and the geese seem to have quite enjoyed the fences being up, so hey, who knows?
Ness, you like your music. What do you think on Tramlines?
Well, before I moved to Sheffield, I used to come with my mum, and if I remember correctly, it didn't used to be in Hillsborough Park when I used to come. We lived in Cambridge, so it's a bit of a trek to come down. Be on my best behaviour to go on it. But these days, the festival's actually really started to disappoint me, and it's become the wrong crowd of people and just too mainstream for me. Yeah.
What do you think about the damage it's doing to the parks?
Well, I thought it was really weird when I first heard that Tramlines got moved to Hillsborough Park. Obviously, as you can tell from the jacket, I go to quite a few festivals a year, and they're always in remote locations, like they're nowhere near anyone's houses. But I do get tram lines. You want it to be
nice Tramlines.
But I'm sure there is a remote location.
Now, from Odeon to Light, Cineworld to View, Sheffield has that movie fever. With award season in full swing, our team went out to see who they thought would win the Oscars this year.
With the Oscars right around the corner, we decided to come out into Sheffield today to see what you guys thought about what the best movie of the year was.
Got to be the Hunger Games prequel. I've watched all of the Hunger Games films and I've read all of the Hunger Games books. I think it's a really good film.
My favourite film is The New Hunger Games that came out last week because I enjoyed finding Snow's story and how he became who he is today.
My favourite movie is Oppenheimer. I like history and the cast was really good and the storytelling of the film was amazing.
Super Mario movie because it was very nostalgic.
Probably Oppenheimer or Barbie.
Yeah, why is that?
Well, it just feels really new. I prefer Barbie, but like it has some problems.
So that's what the people of Sheffield think. But what was your favourite movie of 2023? And will it receive any praise at the Oscars in 2024?
Such a fantastic year of film.
What was your favourite film of this year?
It's got to be Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I remember watching the first one in 2014, and I remember being dragged to that because I weren't that bothered about going to see it. But I remember coming out of the film and I absolutely loved it.
Well, that's all from us today. We'd like to give another big thank you to our guest, Rebecca English.
Thank you for joining us here today. We'll see you next time in the What's Brewin studio.